Known as the father of African literature, Chinua Achebe was born on the 16th of November 1930 in Ogidi, now Anambra State, eastern Nigeria. He was born to Isaiah Okafor Achebe, a teacher and an evangelist, and Janet Anenichi Ilegunam, a vegetable farmer. Achebe has reshaped the global understanding of African identity through the power of storytelling. Raised during the twilight of colonial rule, Achebe's education was steeped in both Igbo tradition and the Western values of post-colonial Christianity. As a student at the University of Ibadan, he became fiercely critical of how Africa was portrayed in Western literature. Achebe believed that Western literature often painted Africa as a dark and primitive continent, but he sought to tell the African people's lens. In 1958, Achebe's groundbreaking novel Things Fall Apart shattered colonial narratives through the tragic story of Okonkwo, an Igbo warrior. Achebe illuminated the complexities of African culture and the devastating effects of European colonization. Things Fall Apart became more than just a novel. It became a symbol of African resistance against the oppressive narratives of colonialism. Achebe was not just a writer. He was a passionate advocate for African self-determination, and his political activism made him a critical voice in the post-colonial era. Even after a life marked by personal and political struggles, including a car accident that left him partially paralyzed, Achebe continued to inspire. He taught at Bard College and later Brown University, where his influence reached new generations of writers and thinkers. He was married to Christiana Chinwe Okoli, and they had 4 children. Sadly, he died in March 2013 at the age of 82. Chinua Achebe's legacy endures in his novels, his essays, and in the countless voices of African writers who follow in his footsteps. He gave us a voice, a story, and a vision of Africa that is ours to share.
Hello and welcome to the Midday News on SOUQ News Television. I'm Moyosore Adebi. Now let's begin with the day's top stories. President Bola Tinubu has directed a Federal Executive Council committee to urgently implement measures that will reduce food prices across the country. The plan, revealed by the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, prioritizes safe passage of farm produce across transport routes in order to cut logistics costs that inflate food prices. The initiative is part of the President's broader food sovereignty agenda, which goes beyond availability to include affordability, accessibility, and nutrition. To strengthen this vision, government is set to launch a farmer soil health scheme to boost crop productivity and introduce a cooperative reform initiative that would empower rural farmers and mobilize resources more effectively. According to Abdullahi, Tinubu views cooperatives as a key tool for economic activity and improved rural livelihoods. By reducing barriers to food distribution and supporting farmers with better soil and cooperative systems, the administration hopes to ensure sustainable food security while also lowering costs for households across Nigeria. The federal government has revised the curriculum for technical education, approving 26 trade areas that will now be taught across federal technical colleges starting from the 2025-2026 academic year. The reform, announced by Education Minister Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, and Minister of State, Professor Shuaiba Said Ahmad, is aimed at modernizing technical learning, reducing overload, and equipping young Nigerians with skills that match global standards. Under the new structure, each college will offer between 6 and 10 specialized trades, ranging from construction and agriculture to renewable energy, digital media, and automotive technology. Courses such as solar installation, social media management, creative media production, and automobile compressed natural gas conversion have been introduced alongside traditional trades like plumbing, welding, and carpentry, reflecting industry demand for both modern and foundational skills. Students will now be required to take between 9 and 10 subjects, combining core trades, general education, and electives to ensure well-rounded development. The ministry explained that the reforms will build strong trade competencies, create pathways to employment, and prepare young Nigerians to participate actively in industries driving national growth and innovation. The House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation has met with the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu. The review, the pace of implementation of the 2024-2025 Appropriation Act. Lawmakers expressed concerns over execution levels, but both ministers assured that Nigerians would benefit to see more visible impact from budget-funded projects before the end of the year. According to Finance Minister Edun, about 80% of the 2024 budget has already been implemented, with an extension granted by the National Assembly until December to complete ongoing programs. He explained that government priorities for the 2025 budget include grassroots development and critical infrastructure such as roads, irrigation facilities, and projects that directly support livelihoods in local communities. He stressed that the focus remains on faithful and full implementation without the need for a supplementary budget. Minister Bagudu, on his part, highlighted the strong collaboration between the executive and the legislature, noting that the National Assembly has supported major reforms, including the recent tax changes. He added that the engagement with lawmakers was constructive in identifying areas requiring improvement, particularly in service delivery and inclusive growth. The session reinforced government's commitment to ensure that public spending translates into tangible benefits for citizens across Nigeria. India is set to introduce a national carbon capture initiative with major government-backed incentives to help industries curb emissions while ensuring energy security. According to government's policy think tank, NIT Ayog, the program will support carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies with funding covering between 50% and 100% of select projects. The move signals a new phase in India's energy transition strategy, balancing climate commitments with its reliance on coal. Officials explained that CCUS will be integrated into coal-based systems to reduce emissions and support projects like coal-to-gas conversion, which could cut natural gas imports by nearly half. Despite coal remaining a central part of India's energy mix for the next 2 decades, policymakers say the focus is on sustainable usage and innovation. The government also plans to expand coal capacity by 97 GW by 2035, while targeting 500 GW of non-fossil fuel power by 2030. Expert notes that India's push aligns with global momentum around CCUS, highlighted by the International Energy Agency as a key tool in achieving net zero goals. By combining clean energy expansion with advanced emissions technology, India is positioning itself to meet rising energy demand while accelerating towards a low-carbon future. Stock markets in Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea surged to record levels on Thursday, lifted by renewed investor confidence in technology shares and optimism around upcoming policy moves by the United States Federal Reserve. Analysts said the rally reflects a strong combination of earnings growth, corporate buybacks, and revived enthusiasm for artificial intelligence-related investments. Japan's Nikkei gained 1.2%, supported by tech, energy, and utilities firms, while Taiwan and South Korea also advanced, with SoftBank rising nearly 10% after Oracle reported a surge in demand for its cloud services. Chinese blue-chip shares rose 1.8%, further signaling renewed momentum across Asia's financial markets. Investors are also closely watching United States inflation data, which could clear the path for interest rate cuts. Market expectations now point to at least one Federal Reserve cut next week, with potential for further easing this year. Analysts note that with inflation pressures moderating policy shifts may unlock greater liquidity, sustaining growth across global equities and strengthening investor appetite in Asia's leading markets. Thanks for watching. Please do well to follow us on all our social media platforms, SOUQ News TV. I'm Moyosore Adebi. Coming up shortly is Just Africa. Do stay with us.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge, ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries.